everybody. Welcome back. My name is Elise Nichols. I'm the SPEAK coordinator, and SPEAK is a local coalition working towards preventing youth substance use. And today I'm joined by Kassandra. Hello, Kassandra.
Hi,
Can you introduce yourself for us?
my name is Kassandre Alexander. I am the school health coordinator for the St. Clair County Health Department, and I am a public health nurse at the Yale Public Schools.
Thank you, Kassandra, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So today we're going to talk about marijuana. It's a pretty hot topic, especially with its recent kind of legalization for people to use recreationally.
Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of questions about it, so let's kind of dig in. Kassandra, can you tell us what effects marijuana can have on the body, both short-term and long-term?
So marijuana is something that can be taken into the body in a lot of different ways. So obviously, probably the most popular or common way would be through smoking it. It can also be, added to different types of edible substances. It can be vaped. It can be used in oils. So a lot of the effects, especially long-term, will depend on how it's imbibed, how it's taken in. In the short term, marijuana causes a kind of euphoric feeling for many people. It clouds their sensory perception, which is something that many people don't realize is happening during a marijuana high. They don't realize that their sense of time, their sense of spatial awareness is affected because some of their other senses can appear to be heightened. So some people will use marijuana and think, well, that it increases some of their senses, when in reality, it's dulling them. It can make people feel relaxed, calm, sleepy, and a lot of people use it for that exact reason. Some people, however, have a totally different reaction to marijuana. Some people find that it makes them feel very anxious, that it can make them feel even paranoid. So it really depends on the person. There's a lot of different strains or types of marijuana that affect people in different ways, and it can be difficult sometimes to know what someone is getting. So it's possible to use marijuana and have a very unwanted effect from it. In the long term, marijuana can affect not only the body physically, but it affects the mind and the mental health. We know that long-term use of marijuana is associated with a decrease in motivation in the work sort of attention span, especially when it's used by younger people whose brain is still in that development phase. And it can cause people to feel depressed, even long-term. So it has, in some ways, a very negative effect on their mental health. If it's smoked, it has a lot of the same effects as cigarettes. It can cause inflammation and damage to the lungs, to the lining of the mouth and throat. And it can even, in long-term, cause problems with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, which is something usually we think of with cigarettes, and even cancer.
Wow. So there's a lot kind of going on with marijuana, and which brings me to my next question. I hear it all the time, so we're going to ask the nurse, is marijuana really that bad? We see people, I mean, it's now been legalized, so people use it recreationally, and people can also use it if they have a medical marijuana card.
Sure.
Is it that bad if all of these things are happening?
It depends. I mean, it depends on how, what you're comparing it to. If you're comparing using marijuana to not using marijuana, then yeah, it can be bad. It is true that marijuana has been shown to have some medicinal benefit, particularly in people who are struggling with cancer, because it increases appetite, and it can, for some people, decrease nausea and vomiting. So somebody who's going through cancer chemotherapy may benefit from using marijuana, or the active ingredient in marijuana, which is THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. But if you're using it recreationally, I think it really depends on the age of the person who's using it, how often they're using it, and to what extent it's affecting them. Some people find that it decreases their motivation, that it makes them feel very sleepy and kind of makes them less motivated to do schoolwork, working, that hanging out with friends, things like that. And if it's having a negative effect on someone's life, then yeah, it is dangerous. Some people are able to use marijuana recreationally and have not bad effects from it. A lot of people are not. So I think it depends on the person, depends on the circumstances. We know, however, that when a younger person is using it, the negative effects of marijuana are intensified. And a lot of that has to do with their developing brain. People who use marijuana may be more likely to struggle with depression because of the way it affects the chemicals that are produced in the brain. Marijuana is illegal. So even though we have passed the laws in Michigan that make it legal for recreational use, that is for adults, not for teens. So regardless of the laws that pertain to the adults in Michigan, it's still illegal for a teenager to use and possess marijuana. So is it risk-free? Absolutely not. And it really depends on the person, I think.
That's really insightful. That's really, you know, I think about that all the time too, and I think you put it perfectly. And so the last question today I want to ask you is one we hear a lot, especially with our 16 and 17-year-olds who are getting their driver's license.
Yeah.
Can marijuana really impair your driving?
It absolutely can. Yeah, absolutely. Marijuana affects your spatial sense. So your spatial sense is your awareness of the physical environment around you, the amount of space between you and an obstacle. It also reduces your reaction time pretty significantly. Part of that calming effect that marijuana has on some people comes with the reduction in the ability to act reflexively. So that sort of, like for example, being able to quickly put your foot on a brake or make a sharp turn to avoid an obstacle in the road. Those are impaired when someone is using marijuana or under the influence of marijuana. It also affects your timing, so your sort of sense of time, and it can even affect your eyesight. So things can look more blurry. They can be a little bit more hazy than they are when someone is sober. So it most definitely does affect your driving. And there have been many, many initiatives in Michigan to institute stricter regulations for people who drive while under the influence of marijuana for that reason.
Yeah, there's so much to unpack here, but we'll have to have you on for maybe another segment in the future. Thank you again, Kassandre, for joining us.
Thanks.
And if folks have any other questions for Kassandre, please drop them in the comments below. Or you can DM us on Instagram or comment on our YouTube channel. We'd love to hear from you. But until next time, we'll see you. Bye-bye.